Okay,
This conference
excellent.
will now be recorded.
Okay, so I'll try to go slightly faster. So let's talk about now continuing with customer master here. So in order for us, so at this point right now, we do have a customer master set up. We have a customer bill to, we have customer credit, and we do have customer sales record. And technically, for some of the customers, these might be perfectly enough to start entering your sales orders at this point. I think for BBB, it's going to be slightly different. They do also have what's called ship-throughs and stores, and we do need to set them up as well. And I'll do that quickly for you right now. Again, let me just go jump into a customer master here on search, or we could we could use history for that as well. So customer master reference, we could just jump straight into history and open up BBB. So that's another option to do. So you have a customer master, related information, and we are going to jump into ship through reference. Again, to remind you, ship through is a DC. Add a new record. We're putting in a customer master BBB. And then a distribution center code. So this would be normally something like a code that your customer is going to give you. Let me see. I think David's emailed me this information before. Let me just find this quickly. Your DC for BBB is store number 0006. So I'll enter that here, 0006. And ship through type, it could be either distributor or consolidator. I don't know how you ship to BBB, but if it's a distributor, you would enter D. If it's a consolidator, you would enter C. So I'm going to assume this is a distributor, and I'm going to put in D here.
It's a consolidated shipment.
Oh, it's a consolidator shipment? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I interject one thing real quick? For Rose, take a look. Maxim, hover over that field again, right where it says ship through type. Hover right where you put the D. Put your mouse right where the D is.
Okay.
Rose, look at the bottom left. See what it says when you're on that field? Look on the bottom left of the screen. It's called tip text.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know what something is, hover over it. Look on the bottom left. If they have it, it's going to show you exactly what you need to do. In this case, ship to location.
Very cool.
How you wouldn't know if it was D or C in the beginning as you're learning this, and that's like a little cheat sheet, what they call tip text. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Yep. So, and so if their ship through is a consolidator, we could definitely change this to C. So we're going to assume this is a consolidator, and the ship through name looks like it's well, I think we could just call it Bad Bath and Beyond 06. So whatever name they give you. EDI center, that's important because sometimes you can call this in your system, for example, just 6. Typically we do recommend to make sure that those numbers match, but if your customer on the EDI transmission will send you 0006, that's what has to be entered here, because that's how EDI resolution is going to find this particular ship through this particular DC or consolidator by using EDI center code. We could put an address here. Looks like it's 2275 Summer Street. And it's Stamford, Connecticut. Zip code is 106905. Country US. If bill to code is different for this DC, we could enter that here. Or you bill in directly to this DC. That's also a possibility. And the GS1 location code, again, we're not using this. And that's it. So I think DC is a very simple setup here. I can click Save. So we do have a DC now set up for BBB. I'll close the tab, go back to customer master reference, and the last thing to do is to create a store, because again, we ship into Consolidator, but we're marking for a particular store. So on the related information, we do have a customer store reference, and I'm going to go to customer store reference standard. And would you like to add a new record? Yes. Same kind of screen. Customer is BBB. Bed Bath & Beyond. It's an active store. And then we do a store code. So let's see, I think David gave me a store number 70007. Store name, I think it's just called Bed Bath & Beyond 7. Bill to code. Again, if it's any different, you would enter it here, but if it's global, then we could leave that blank. EDI store code similar to DC. We want to make sure that there's a match to what customer is actually going to send you an EDI transmission. I am going to assume they're sending you this number. We're going to put that here. Store types, if you separate store types, some people do brick and mortar e-commerce stores for this customer, but I'm going to assume that that's not happening. And same thing, store class and store channel. Again, if you going forward, you need to do that. You know, these options are here for you. Doing business as on a store basis, and the address. Let's take a look. The address is 101-B. Mercer Mall, and the city is Lawrenceville, state is New Jersey, zip code 08648, country US. If you ship from a special default location, you could put that here. And here is basically your putting in this is how you decide if, so once you enter the sales order for a customer and you put in the store, that's the store that the order is going to go to, there's also on this store record, there's something called ALT ship, which is alternate ship to, and it's important that you are telling the system how you're shipping. So in this case, Rose said that you're shipping to Consolidator. So similar to what David mentioned before, alternate ship to, we have two options to put either D or C, looking at the help menu in the left-hand bottom corner. So we're saying for this store, we're always going to ship C, Consolidator. Now watch the Consolidator code here. Right now it's grayed out, but once I put C here and tab out of it, it opens. So basically, I will then pick the Consolidator code to choose so that the routing correctly prints out ship to instructions on the pick ticket. If I were to enter instead of a C, if I were to put in D, then my distribution center code would open up here, and I would enter a distribution center if you have a DC for a customer. So those two fields are basically depending on what you enter in this record will open up separately. So anyways, I'm going to do C now for Consolidator. I'm going to hit tab, and it's asking me for Consolidator code F2, and we're going to pick out store 006, which is our Consolidator here, right? So again, just to repeat this one more time, we are shipping to store 07, but the 07 in this case has been set up as a Mark 4, and the ship to is going to be store 006, which is a Consolidator for this account. Then you have this similar records here that you had on the customer master before, if you remember, the lead time, how much lead time the store needs, then old store number. If they change a store name, they moved a location. If that store needs call for routing request, store opening date if you want to track that information. Again, this is just reporting purpose only. Bill code for small package carrier if it's any different. Allow back orders. Again, just to understand. So in Blue Cherry, everything is you have some global default, but then as you go down to like details, to ship throughs, to stores, you could set up, exceptions just on those individual records. So for example, you could say this customer does not allow back orders, but that one particular store has a different manager and says, okay, you know what, I'm going to take back orders, no problem. So you could do this on this particular store. Then you have your UDF fields again, store UDF1, store UDF2, if you need to enter any data there. Then one-time address required. So this basically, it's a relatively new thing, and that has to do with direct-to-consumer shipments. So many times now you ship to a store, but for pickup by an individual customer. So that customer sort of orders something online, for example, from Bed Bath & Beyond. The order comes to you for customer pickup. So you ship directly to that store 007, but then there's a one-time address, which is basically that customer name, Gregory Smith, who's going to come and pick up that particular package that you ship to a store. So if you know that particular store, like an e-com store, does require a one-time address, then you would check that box here. Okay, and then you do have currency, international origin code. We don't need to talk about that. Or codes, global location numbers, GL codes. I don't think we're going to be separating, and that's it. So the store is basically set up. So I am saving the store record now, and we basically do have. I think right now everything we need to enter sales orders, right? So I'm going to close customer master. I'm going to close customer store. We're back to infinity. And so let's talk about quickly about sales orders. So in Blue Cherry, the sales order process, it's basically from sales order to pick to invoice. So those are three different stages of an order, and it all begins with open order. And then, like I said, once the order goes through allocation or force picking, it becomes a pick ticket, and then from a pick ticket, once you ship the goods, then it goes into an invoice stage. And the last thing of the process, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, you post that invoice to AR, and at that point it's in your AR system for collection. Now, a couple of things we need to do for sales order entry besides having a customer master. So we do have styles in the system now. We do have a customer master. A couple of things I want to set up also. I show you how it's set up for open order is first order source. So I will do a search here for source, and we do have sales order source reference. I will open that up, and let's just hit apply on the filter to see what we have. So we do have this current sources in the system. We have an EDI source, we have a manual entry source, and we have a web order source. So this typically basically just tells you how the order has been originated. So if you just want to know how, what percentage of orders are coming by EDI, what percentage of orders are coming manually, or maybe coming from your own website, then you could create the sources. If you need more, we could definitely do more, but I think right now that would be sufficient enough. So you could separate your EDI orders, your manual orders, and orders come from your Shopify alrine.com website. Maybe marketplaces would be another option here. Like I know you sell marketplaces, so you could definitely enter that here if it doesn't fall under web orders, just to separate these things. Okay, so that's source reference for a sales order. And another option is order type, right? So you have a source, and then you do have sales order type standard. Let's see if we have any sales order types right now. So we do have regular and replenishment. I could possibly, think about creating something like order type DOM, domestic, IMP, import, and maybe POE as an option. So why don't I do that now? So let me just quickly create some order types for you. So let me just do IMP, import. Again, a lot of that stuff here is optional. So I'll just click save. Oops, resolve end date. So when you see this, sometimes when you create these order types, and you save something, then obviously it's missing some information. So we do want to resolve end date here. Create it. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll just copy it over and I'll call DOM. And I forgot to rename DOM. So let's do domestic. Save, and let's just copy and do POE and save. All right. So show filter, and we do have now this order types: regular, replenishment, import, domestic, POE. Okay. And one last thing. So in Blue Cherry, there's a bunch of things which are typically managed by admin, and we call them. Everything you've seen before so far was customer style reference, customer master reference, credit reference. All these references are typically managed and entered by different departments in the company. However, we also have something that we call controls in Blue Cherry, and this is basically global defaults for Blue Cherry. And normally global defaults are managed by admins of a company. So there's one global default for sales order, and this is called sales order control. And if I go to sales order control, I open this up, I click apply. There's one that already exists for division 01. And for division 01, basically the global defaults to not allow duplicate SKUs. However, I believe when we set up a customer sales record for BBB, we said yes, we do want to allow duplicate SKUs. Then we have an option to auto calculate total units, and I will show you later what that option is when we come to sales order entry. Then we could say that we do need a cost sheet for sales order entry. If the cost sheet doesn't exist, you simply won't be able to enter a sales order. If we do stick with standard costs, then this option might not be required, so we could just enter sales order without any cost sheets. Allocation, this is used for allocation if you substitute in the goods. I think we'll do a deeper dive when we start talking about allocation and how substitution can work for you if you ever do substitutions of products. Then max allowed is basically how much of open orders and picked orders can exceed your quantity on hand. If you want to say, I don't want to exceed my quantity on hand by no more than 10%, we could enter this here. And then do you want to have decimal places and size buckets? And so that's not typically used by your type of business because you do ship in eaches. But some businesses, if you think about, for example, fabric, they could be selling fabric in decimal points, 10.5 yards of fabric or something like that. But in your case, I don't think we need any decimal places for your size buckets. Then you have your order entry default. So as of right now, if I start creating a new order, it's automatically going to be a type regular. So why don't I change that to DOM, for example? Let's say majority of your orders is domestic from the warehouse. So maybe that's going to come. It's going to come handy. Season, right now the default is all. Why don't I change that to SPR 19 because you're in spring 19 season. So any order entry will basically take that season code SPR 19. Then the start date. How does the start date populate? Is it a current date or a season start date? So normally we pick C for current day. So if I enter an order now and the customer doesn't give you a start date, so the start date will automatically populate as to date that you could, obviously you could change this if customers providing you a start date. End date could also be defaulted by season, but normally we take that from whatever customer is giving you. Priority. How is priority date calculated? So this is also a conversation with allocations, how the priority is given to customers. So, every order that you enter will have a priority date. And if you think about that, it's basically, what it comes into play if your priority codes are same for a customer. Let's say you have a BBB, and again, you have an Amazon, and priority codes for them are both 500s. And you enter an allocation process, but you run an allocation process, but you don't have enough goods to fulfill Amazon only or BBB. How does the system decide who is going to get the goods? So it then can use, if priority codes are same, it could use priority dates. So if you enter Amazon order before your BBB order, then the system could say, hey, because my Amazon order was entered earlier, then we could use priority date to ship to this particular customer. If there's no other criteria to choose priority. So priority date right now is basically going to be the date of order entry. So same as a start date. And then the default location to ship from 01, which I believe right now 01 is set up as your California warehouse. So those are order defaults. Again, if you don't populate this, you would have to populate this manually, or you could override this when you do an actual order entry, but they will populate for you, just saving some time on the order entry. So let me save that. Oops. Invalid allow detail location. Okay, and we have to click that yes. Do that. Yeah, there you go. Okay. And then you have a bunch of different checks on the sales order control. So there's many. First of all, customer master. You could say that if you could override if you don't have customer sales record for a particular customer, then you could use global default here. Make sure you have POs and departments. Then you have your records to consolidate invoices, duplicate invoices. Those are important things. And we could take a deeper dive because sometimes some customers do require it to consolidate your invoices. But we'll discuss that later. Customer sales resolution. Again, if you don't have a customer sales record, you could enter default here. Terms, salesperson, preferred shipper. Forms. Those are default forms. That's going to work for every customer unless any particular customer is using their own invoice form or their own pick ticket or their own consolidated invoice. So these already been pre-filled for you and are defaulted for everybody. Then duplicate checks. So this is done normally to make sure you don't enter same order twice. So for example, let's say you already have order in the system, the EDI comes in, by accident, customer sends you that same EDI order twice. So you could tell the system to check your open orders, your picked orders, your cancel orders, or your shipped orders. And we normally do recommend to check that and to throw, an error message saying, hey, you already have same PO number in the system. What do you want to do? Do you want to stop? Do you want to make sure that you're not entering the same twice? Because you don't want to ship that same order twice to a customer. So let me save that now, because we definitely want to track that part. Just thinking, give it a second. There you go. And I scroll down more, and then you have other checks to validate some of the EDI fields, make sure carton quantity matches to what's, make sure you packed everything correctly. Price tolerances. I mean, there's a ton of different things that, again, I for the sake of time, I don't want to go into the details right now, but there's a whole lot of different validations on this. Again, we do recommend, because there's, these settings are already coming as default, but as we start setting this up and doing the CRP, if we need to change any of that stuff, we'll definitely go ahead and come back to it, and we'll change those settings for you. But I'll leave this as default right now. Okay, so we save this. So we've done so far sales order source, sales order type, and the sales order control. Again, controls are basically global settings in Blue Cherry for for different things. In this case, this is a global setting for your sales orders. Okay, so I'll close this out. I'll close this out. And we are ready to enter our first open order in the system. Again, orders could be entered by different means. One is you have a Shopify connector. Once integration PM starts working with you, he'll set up that Shopify connector to pull orders automatically from Shopify into your Blue Cherry system. Then you do have EDI orders, which again, once the EDI orders are coming in, they're going to be pulled automatically into a system. But I'm sure you do have some customers that send you orders manually, and that's what we're going to go through right now. So in order for us to start doing this, we are going to go search, and we're going to look for open order. So we do have open order maintenance standard. Again, I'll pick standard. You're probably going to have your own, we're going to set up your own screen for Alreen that only will have information you guys need to enter. Let's see if we have any orders in the system right now. Apply, nothing. So it's basically brand new, no orders at all. I'm going to click new for an order, and I'm on your screen. Okay, so a couple of things. Order number. This order will be automatically generated, and it's an internal Blue Cherry number for your orders. There's a range that we can assign by division to your orders. I think, I could be wrong, but I think the first order we're going to enter now is probably going to begin with like 1 or something like that, but this could change. So once you guys are ready to give me the ranges, and we normally say, hey, better off to start with something like 1,000 or 10,000, just to not start with like a very, very low number. But it's an internal decision you're going to be making. So this part we don't enter. It's automatic. There's a new number. There's another number, what we call register number, and that could happen if you do have, for example, orders that are grouped together. For example, you have orders that are going to different stores, and they all get a different order number, but they all under the same register number. So again, this is an automatically generated number, so we're not going to worry about that. So again, these two things we're skipping. We're not entering order number. We're not entering register number. As you could see, the first field on this order screen form has already been populated for your division 01, and that's because this is a default for your sales order control. So we don't need to populate division. But if you did have multiple divisions, obviously you would have to populate this manually. PO number, and so this is customer provided PO number. So I am going to enter test BBB order, right? Going forward, going on is season. Again, as you could see, it automatically populated spring 19 for you. And then the order source. So we would need to pick that. I am picking right now, this is a manual entry. Okay. So we do have season populated, order source, and then order type has been populated for us automatically. And this is a domestic order. I could then, if this is not a domestic order, I could pick import or POE. So for argument's sake, I'm going to keep that as a domestic order. The next thing on the list, it's asking me for a customer. So I would either look it up by hitting F2, or just, if I know my customer code, I could enter it here, BBB, and I hit tab. As you could see, as soon as I hit tab, first of all, it found the name of a customer. It automatically showed me customer type, DBT, would show me DBA if there was a DBA. It also resolved my terms automatically. As you could see, my terms for this customer is net 30 days, and that's because we had that customer sales record set up. If we didn't have that set up, we would have to enter the terms manually. So I keep going. Then if you ship into a store, I would right-click here, and I would find my store 007. And then Bed Bath & Beyond 007, and I hit tab, and then it's asking me for a department. Ooh, I forgot to do this. We forgot to set up departments. We have two departments, 705 and 706. So let me just do that quickly right in here. Let me click department, add a new record. Yes, please. So customer BBB, and department is 705. Division is 01. And the name, table textile. Okay. Probably don't need to put any address because typically departments are not address specific, but I'm going to click save. And let me just copy this record over, and I'm going to create department 706. And 706 is kitchen. All right, so we'll save that too. So we do have two departments right now. I'll close out of this, go back to my open order maintenance, and F2, and we do have those two departments here. So let me pick department 705. Okay. Shipper. If we had a default shipper for this customer in customer sales record, it would have been populated automatically. We don't. So there's different options. Obviously, if it's a manual order and they're telling you what shipper to use, you could right-click it. We do have a couple of shippers here. UPS Ground is one, so I'll just pick UPS Ground. If the store is EDI, many times they are providing you a shipper already, and this could be populated automatically when the order comes in. So that's but I'm picking right now shipper UPS Ground. Don't need to pick shipper, by the way, an open order entry, but at some point, I believe for your pick and invoice maintenance, this will be required. You will need to populate a shipper at some point. It doesn't need to happen now because you might not know how to ship this, or maybe order entry people won't know who to ship, but the warehouse will. So then the warehouse could populate the shipper here. Okay. Next here is important thing. It's something that's called confirmation type. And confirmation type in Blue Cherry, we use two types always, and that's it's going to be important for you to learn and remember. because you have type A and type B. Now, confirmation type A is basically your real order. Confirmation type B is your bulk order. So if you enter any bulks, set it up as B. If you enter approved orders, set real orders, not blanket orders, set it up as A. By default it's A, but if you enter in a bulk, then make sure B is here, because bulk is going to be normally used by customers, to book some units in advance if there's no real orders are given by customer. And then, once real orders come in, you could use those bulk orders to, validate that these orders are, accurate, the dollars match, the quantities match, and things like this. So normally what will happen is when the real orders come in, they start basically drawing down against those bulks. But in this case, we're not doing a bulk, we're doing a real order, so I'm going to keep that as A. But important, confirmation type is one of the important things in Blue Cherry, and it's always A or B. You cannot create your own. Terms have been populated for us, net 30 days. Ship terms, if you ship from overseas possibly, then you could, populate FOB here, but I'll leave that as blank right now. Start date. As you remember, when the sales order control, we said start date of the order is going to be always a current date. But if your order has a different start date, we could definitely change that right here. We could say that this order will start shipping on 25th of March. And then the next one is, when is the cancel date? When is the end date? So let's say this order is going to cancel 04/15/2019. Now let me just change that back to today's date anyways, 19. Right? So start date, cancel date. And then the next thing is priority date. Again, it was populated automatically as the current date of the order. And, it's helpful in allocations when the system decides who is going to get the goods in case you don't have enough to fulfill orders from different customers. Credit A. So if you remember, you had either A or H. So, if the customer sales record was set up as H, this order would be on hold, and you wouldn't be able to pick this order unless it's taken off hold. So in case, you do have some orders entered now, and then somebody says, somebody calls and says, hey, we have some orders we need to put them on hold because customer is not paying, we could come here, change this to H, and this order will not be able to pick and ship. Okay. But as of right now, I'm going to just keep that as A. We're not keeping it on hold. We're approving it. And then the order quantity. So order quantity, you have two options. And that's normally used to make sure that you don't make a mistake when you do order entry. So you could, if you remember, I showed you on sales order control, you could auto calculate total order quantity for manual entry. Right now it's not checked. So what it does is, as you enter your order details, then you have quantities for different colors, different dimensions, different sizes. Then once you enter all this, then you basically can look on your order that's in your hand, paper order, and say, oh, my total quantity is 1,000 pieces. And if you make a mistake somewhere on the detail entry and it doesn't match 1,000, obviously the system is going to throw an error. So basically, it's a customer decision how they want to do this. If they don't auto calculate, then it's just an extra step that they have to enter a total order on their own. So it's basically your decision to make. So this is on this is header. So, and we complete on the header here. Oh, and then the discount code. If we had a discount code for this particular customer, we could also populate that here. Or if it's always a permanent discount, then it could have been created on customer sales record before. So header is done. We could minimize this to make sure it doesn't take too much space, and then we could jump into additional header. Additional header has a ton of stuff, and again, as I said before, all these screens are customized, and we will probably remove stuff you don't need. So you don't need to see so many details as you enter through this orders to just make your team work easier. So I'll just briefly go through them to show you what's available to you. But again, we'll probably take a deeper dive when we start setting up the system. Bulk tab, we basically check in, the flag is checked by default to do the bulk reduction. What that basically means, if you do have a bulk in the system, it's going to try to find that bulk automatically, and it's going to try to reduce that bulk for you. And then you could basically print out reports showing how the bulk drawdown happened. How it was depleted, and then you could basically look at the variances and see, oh, by the way, my bulk was depleted by 900, but it was 4,000. Why didn't they send me 100 units order? So that's automatic check-in. You could also inherit some of the bulk information from a customer. So, if customer is not sending you some stuff, but your terms have been preset or something else has been preset on the bulk, you can inherit that information from a bulk. Then there's a separate control for the inheritance that you could make changes to see what has to be inherited from the bulk order. That's on bulk. Then you do have charges. Charges, again, you have your freight, which is, you could manually enter this here, or it could be calculated, or it could come from your UPS or FedEx, and depending on how you set that up. Then you have some broker amount that's typically used for like duty. If you ship like POE orders, for example, maybe you would add the broker amount to your invoice. So depending, if you billing customer for this or not billing, then you could have some merchandise discount, which is different from order discount. Then you could do miscellaneous amount charges, which basically don't fall into freight or broker amount charges. Then you could have tax also that's calculated. So all that stuff, that's extra charges to an order. So those are, they could be either automatically calculated, or you could manually override these numbers, and that's charges. Then you do have comments. So that's used with normally with EDI. When the EDI comes in, if there's any field that we send into customer comments, it would populate here. Then you do have configuration. So on configuration tab, we do have price code A for this customer, right? So this customer, when we pick in styles, the styles are going to be price code A. Then the priority code is 500. That's all done from customer sales reference. The customer is tax exempt. If you remember, we had that set up in customer master. And then you have like, this is used for MRP allocations. I'm not going to talk about that right now. And then you could do must arrive by date. That's normally populated by EDI, because sometimes EDI send you things like start date, cancel date, and also must arrive by date. It could be like a third date. That's on order entry, or you could enter it manually. So, you could say the order is canceled 4/15, but it has to arrive to their consolidation center by April 10. And then no charge reason. If you, for whatever reason, you're not doing any extra charges for them, it's typically optional. Then you have your EDI tab. RRC, this is used with 753 and 754 transactions. I'm not sure if you guys do this. Probably David or Rose knows more about it, but that's your request for routing instructions. then you have EDI bill to, which is probably going to come from EDI transaction. And then it's going to tell you if you processed your 856s, if you processed your 855s, if you process your 940s. I know you're not using 940s, but going forward you might use this. So this is typically just extra EDI information that you could always go back to an order and make sure that all of that stuff was done to an order. Envelope is everything that it's you don't have any control with this. It's basically just tell you who entered this order, when it was entered, if the pick ticket or invoice was printed for this, was it posted to AR and not posted yet, when it was last modified, and then also the order stages. So stages is a separate thing. We could some people use them, some people don't use them, but right now we haven't set up any order stages here. One-time address, if you remember, I talked to you about it. Sometimes, it's typically used for web orders or direct-to-consumer orders because, we did have setups for stores and DCs, but, you don't need to set up each individual person, especially if you sell online or something. Those customer records, customer names, customer phone numbers, customer addresses will come as a one-time ship-to address, which you don't need to populate in advance. It'll come from, either EDI or your Shopify connector, but it will be displayed here. If you ever look, if you already have an order that's been entered by EDI or web, then you could see that one-time ship-to record here, and we have ship-to, one-time ship-to, one-time bill-to, one-time sold-to, and one-time mark-for. So those are here. I mean, I really typically don't see one-time bill-to, sold-to, and mark-for a lot, but one-time ship-to happens quite a lot for web commerce, for web orders. Packing. Those are different packing instructions that you could populate here, and they will be printed on your pick ticket. I don't know if all these fields are mapped to a pick ticket. If not, and you find out that you need to populate that information, we could definitely make sure that those fields are on your pick ticket and they go into a warehouse. Process balance. This is coming from, if you remember, from your customer sales record. So for this particular customer, if you invoice and there's leftover merchandise on the pick ticket, it's basically going to be back orders. You could change this right on the sales order to make sure that it's canceled. For example, if customer says for this order, ship me everything I have and can kill the rest of the balance, then you could change that here. Reference, that's also usually comes from EDI, a description, supply number. Again, supply number could be defaulted from customer sales record, but a lot of times it's coming on the EDI order when they send you like what's called a vendor number or supply number, and it's going to be populated here, and it's going to go back on your 810 or 856 customer origin code that has to do with normally international shipment. Representative. So if you remember, we didn't populate this, but on sales order reference, you could say who's my claims rep for this order, who's my credit rep, and who's my customer rep. So if they were populated there, you could see them here. So for like big organizations, who is responsible for all these things. So I'll close this out, and then routing. So routing is an important thing. As if you remember on the sales order control, my default location is my warehouse 01, which is my California warehouse. My alternate ship to is C, which is consolidator, and my consolidator code is 006. And how it knows this is because our store was set up as such to ship to consolidator 006, and that's why it's coming here. So and I'll show you something that's called address resolution here, so you see exactly what I mean. If for this particular order you're shipping from somewhere else, for example, it's not a domestic order, but it's an import order, then you could definitely choose a different location, your contractor or somebody, and populate this here. But for this, we are shipping from location 01. Then you have different other things like ship direct, and we could talk about that when we set up routes and instructions for you. Also, small package carrier bill code, if it's a third-party bill code, shipper discount codes, actual freight amount, all of that stuff. This is on your route and instructions. Then you have your ticketing if you have to ticket the goods. You could also, check this things here, and it's going to come. I think ticket options are actually used for might be used with Avery Dennison. I'm not 100% sure exactly, or I actually don't know any customer that's using them, but I'm sure some people do. Maybe Molly, I don't know if she's on the phone, knows how it's used, but supposedly you could send that information to your 3PL warehouse, and maybe it's going to be on a pick ticket to make sure they ticket the goods correctly. But again, I haven't seen one customer that's using this, so not 100% sure. Ticketing, and then you have your user-defined fields. You have quite a few here. So if you do want to add extra information that's possibly going to print out on your pick ticket or invoice or anywhere here, or say this order is a gift order, put a red ribbon on it or something, you could definitely do this in UDF fields. So you have a lot actually. And then you do have last tab is a warehouse information, and that would be like after you pack this order, it'll show you exactly how many cartons this order has, and then if you assign your weight to your garments and your cartons, it'll calculate exactly how much weight it is and how much volume it is. Right now it's all zeros, but it has an option to automatically calculate that for you. Okay. So this is your additional header information. Again, not everything that you see here is going to be needed for you, and we'll probably remove this or hide this for you to make your order entry simpler. Maybe something like route, and where you have to always make sure that you ship it from a correct warehouse. We'll probably bring this into the header level, so it's and make it like a mandatory entry to make sure you do enter it and it's entered correctly. You do also additional header, and this is I think is used for e-commerce. I don't know exactly how it's used. I think this is something with the e-commerce interface, but I'm not going to speak to that because I don't know what those things are. So I'll just close out of that. Then you do have your commission tab band, and again, it picked up a salesperson house with no commission. Then you have your currency, so you have again, it's going to be always US dollar for you, but if you were to sell to international customer and their currency is Canadian dollar, for example, then you could say that you're selling in US dollars, but the pay is in Canadian dollars, and then you could do like conversion rates here, which could be set up in the system as well to convert your currency from US dollar to Canadian dollar or any other currency in the world. And we get to your detailed records now, right? So, and that's where we start entering what it is that the customer is actually buying. So I am, so we populated header, additional header, everything else is like a default stuff. And we're going to click new on detail. And, we're going to start actually populating styles that this customer is buying from you. So again, I could click F2. We found this guy here that we created yesterday, or we could just type this if we know the style number. So it populated for me the style code, it populated style name. I would just hit tab. The next thing I would do is pick a color. Let's say they buy gray, right? So I would tab it. And if this, if they need a customer specific label, it would be here. I don't think we set up anything yet. No records to look up. And then your DIM pack, right? So right now, as you could see, the size scale here, it shows you 17 through 21. However, all these fields have been grayed out because you haven't populated the DIM pack yet. So let's say this customer wants to buy from you 100 of 17 by 17, and then 200 of 18 by 18, 200 of 19 by 19, 200 of 20 by 20, and 100 of 21 by 21. So I would pick dimension pack here. So this is my dimension pack size. Translated is basically how you call this in the system. I called it 17. It automatically picked my price A, right? If you remember, on the Style Master, we set up price A is $5. It automatically picked that for me. Then, as you could see on this size buckets, only one opened up. Everything else is closed, and then because it only allows me to enter size 17 with dimension 17, everything else is not available for me. So I would put in 100 here, right? And this is our first entry. It's been completed, and it's done at this point. Oh, and it does show you a picture for a style here too, right? So you could actually see what that style is. We could, at this point, we could save this order, or we could continue entry. So to continue entry, you could do a couple of things. You could either click New to create a new record, or if your records are similar in entry, you can copy. So let's say I'll just do a copy, and we pick the same exact style, but the DIM pack is going to be 18. And as you can see, the price for that changed to $5.30 because it was different. And our breakdown is 18 by 18. So I'm going to put in 200, and I'm going to copy again. And the next one, I'm going to enter 19. And I am going to enter 200 for 19 by 19. And I'm going to say copy again. And now my DIM pack is going to be 20. And the price again changed here. And we're going to do 200. And I'm going to say copy one more time. And this is the last time. And for DIM pack, I'm going to pick 21. And I am going to put in 100, right? So this is what this customer ordered from me, right? It shows you here that it calculated in the bottom 800 units for you. And the total for the order is, looks like $4,315, right? And actually, you do have something that's called summary totals here as well. If you click that, and then you could see what's been on the open order for you. So you could see that the order quantity is at 800 pieces. Gross extended price is $4,315. Then there's discounts, but we don't have any discount code, so it's discount is 0. And your net after the discount is same amount. And then you have all other charges here. So you have freight, broker amount. If you remember, we saw this before. As of right now, they're all zeros. But if your system calculated for you, or if you enter them in those charges fields, they would add to the amount due of this particular order, right? So at this point, we could actually save. We could save this order. However, just to note one other thing here, all these detail records, if I click on them on the plus, they do have their own additional information here as well. And if they need to change by on detail level, for example, let's say one order you want to ship, one line you want to ship by plane, and the rest you want to ship by truck or something else, you could possibly change that information here. So normally it doesn't happen, but if the need comes to it, you could definitely provide, set that up here on detail line level as well. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to do it on header level. And I think that's it, except for one thing. If you remember, we spoke about before in the header level, it's asking me what's the total quantity here. And this is just a validation point. So if I try to save this now, I expect that it tells me that my order quantity has not been filled. Save. Yeah, see, it says total order quantity does not balance with a sum of line units. So, and we could basically now look on paper order in hand, and the paper order total says, if it does say 800, we would enter it here. Again, it could be auto calculated for you. This is just sort of like a, to validate, make sure that there's no mistakes happen on the data entry, and then you click save. And your order has been saved. It has order number 1, register number 1, and this is your order. Does show you everything that's in the order. We make these things disappear. Oh, I want to see detail. You could do this and see it slightly better. And again, as you could see, price is different because dimension is different. And the gross profits are also calculated for you, right? So you do have simple gross profit, and it's 70% here, and it's all based on standard costs that the style has. So you do have calculations of how much the gross profit would be for this particular order. One thing to see, if you go into view, there's something that says address resolution. If you remember, we spoke about different things like mark for, ship to, bill to. So in ship to, it tells you we are shipping to 006, which is our consolidator. However, we are marking for store 007, and that's our end destination. The bill to set up for this customer was accounts payable, if you remember that. Remit to, where money is going to go, is Milberg Factors. And ship from is your primary warehouse. It's joined by the routing. And sold to, it's basically your customer, Bed Bath & Beyond. So you could always, come to address resolution and make sure that resolution is done correctly to make sure that all this information is correct for an order, but looks like it's correct to me right now. One other thing here, there's a button here that says raw EDI. If you click on that, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work now because, first of all, this is not an EDI order, and second of all, I don't think we are connected now to the EDI server. However, when this connection is established and when the orders come in by EDI, click in this button. So right now it says problem access and remote server. But once this is, once we do have an EDI set up and once the orders start coming in, clicking this button can actually show you what the raw EDI for an order, what that raw EDI is, and you could see it. You could, look at it, and some people who are trained enough, and I'm pretty sure David and Rose are, they could see, they could look at raw EDI, and make sure that everything that's in that raw EDI is correct per what this order looks like on screen, because some of the setups that are coming from raw EDI might not translate correctly into interface depending on how setups are done. So this sometimes is very helpful to actually look at the raw EDI as well. So address resolution, packages, you have your display images here. If you if you have multiple styles that you ship in, you could see them here. We only have one, so one image only. Packages button, once the order is packed, then clicking this button will bring up all the carton information. Right now it says there's no packages, no cartons for this big ticket. So I'm going to click that. Then you do have your credit card tab. We're not using credit cards here. If you were to process credit cards and orders, you could definitely see that. Couple of things here on tasks. Mass update or quick tasks. So I think David at some point already mentioned mass updates. Extremely powerful tool in Blue Cherry. So you could, I think David mentioned that mass update will only be given to just a few individuals in the company, because you could quickly mass update a whole lot of stuff, not on just one order. You could pick, 50 orders, 100 orders based on the filter criteria, and you can update things on those orders, like change price and change, how it's using, where it's shipping from, where it's shipping to. It's a lot of stuff you can update. If I click mass update button here, it does tell me things I can update. So you could change priority codes. For example, you could say, I want every single order for Amazon start using priority code, 400 or 300, just because I want to start shipping them as soon as possible. You could do this. You could change salespeople. You could change shippers, seasons, taxes. I mean, a whole lot of stuff. And this is just on the header level. And then you also could change detail level, and then you could change additional header information as well. So this is a very, very powerful tool. And, but, we always say exercises with caution, because doing mass updates could be sometimes, slightly risky.
This is really, really good. Let me ask you a question. Is it possible we could end a little early today? How much more do we have for this? Because we gotta finish a couple things here.
What time do you want to finish, David?
Well, how much do we have left?
Basically, we have an open order. The next thing we'd do is to create a pick ticket, and the next thing would be doing an invoice. I could try to wrap up in 15 minutes.
Perfect. Excellent. Thanks.
Very good. Okay. And I'll be quick. Okay, so we talked about all of that. There's an allocation button as well, which, again, when we start talking about allocation, I'll discuss with David. So that's it. So we do have an open order now. So if I click show filter, again, we only have one right now. But at some point when you start entering the system, you're probably going to have hundreds, maybe thousands here, because I know you do have a lot of orders coming in on a daily basis. So that's open order. The next step on the open order, let me try this. Let me just see if that actually does work. If I go to tasks, I could try to do a report on this. And this is an order acknowledgement. If the form has been set up for you, let me just take a look. I don't promise you it was, but let me see.
I am noticing latency. It's kind of slow.
I don't know if it's a latency, or is it because the order form has not been set up for you just yet. I'm not 100% sure. I'm waiting to see what's going to come out. Let me try one more time. yeah, we might have to go and make sure the settings are done for your forms, and it looks like it's not doing this right now. But those things are preset again. So we talked about entering an open order. The next thing you would do is you would pick this order. So I'm going to show you right now something that's called force picking, which is basically manually picking the order. However, again, I don't think you're going to be using that. You guys are going to be using allocations. So that's what's going to work for you. And we basically say, if you guys are going allocation, do not force pick your orders to make sure that inventory is allocated correctly. So, but I'll do force picking right now just to show you how this works. So you could do a couple of things right from the order maintenance. You could do a related information and say pick by order, or you could again go into search and do that here. So I'm going to pick by order. And let's say we are going to assume that you do have inventory to pick. So I'm going to click actions. I'm going to say pick all. And you could see all the quantities here were picked: 100 pick, 200 pick, 200 pick, 200 pick, and 100 pick. And we are saving this now. Okay, and so it has been picked. So now, if I do now search for open orders, show filter, and apply. Right now it says no data found in criteria because we don't have any more open orders at this point anymore, right? They're gone. So if I go now to a different screen, which is called pick maintenance, and that's where all my pick tickets are. So if I click apply, now this guy is found. And as you can see, this is order 1, register 1, but also it has a pick number, which is a pick ticket number, and the pick ticket number is 1001. Okay, so that's your pick ticket number. Normally the next process is to process pick ticket, and that's usually, again, with allocation process together. Process pick ticket is it's usually put on schedule to run automatically and not to run manually, but I'm showing you again manual steps. So I'll just go ahead and run the process right now. And again, let's see if it's going to generate me a pick ticket or not, because if the forms haven't been set up, it might not generate a pick ticket. Yeah, I have to review why. Actually, let me just quickly apologize for doing this. Or maybe I just want to make sure my services are running here, because services are important too.
I think do you think it's the forms? Like you said, we didn't.
Oh, wait. Maybe this is why, because your task services are not running right now. So let me just see if this helps it. Give me 1 second. Process, run. Oh, they're not running here too. that doesn't work. I suspect that the forms haven't been set up. But let me take a look. Task return no data. Give me 1 second. Maybe then has it been processed already with apply? Okay, so it's, I guess because we did that already. Let's see if this works now. There you go. Okay. And this is, yeah, I apologize for this slide problem. Looks like we had task services that were supposed to be running, but they were not running. I started them, and now we're able to print the pick ticket. So this is what our standard default Blue Cherry pick ticket looks like. Again, it has your company name on here. Ship to is your store number 6. Mark for store number 7. Pick ticket date, pick ticket number, which is an internal Blue Cherry number. Start and cancel date for an order. Then you have for store 7, department 705, you have this style basically in color gray, 17 by 17, 100 pieces, 18 by 18, 200, 19 by 19, 200, and so forth. And this is your pick ticket information, basically. And this is what the process will automatically drop to warehouse. Again, you could choose this to go, by email as a PDF document or print directly to a warehouse printer, however you guys do this. But that's what a typical print pick ticket number, pick ticket form looks like. So I am going to close this. Okay. And now the next and last thing to do but there's also packing. I think we only have 38 minutes. I'm not going to go into packing because also there is a separate step to pack the order. We don't need to pack it.
Yeah, we're going to set up a totally separate training session because it's a totally different group.
Yeah, I think it's more for warehouse.
Yeah. But we are going to do scan and pack. We're definitely doing scan and pack. We have 8 pack stations. Okay.
Very good. Yep. So, but scan, we don't need to do this for this training session. We could bypass this step, but typically your warehouse would start packing the goods and setting up, cartons and all that stuff. But in this case, what I would do is from pick maintenance standard, I would go into invoice process again, invoice pick tickets. So this is the last step. It comes here. If you are invoicing everything that was ordered, again, you would click invoice all in actions, and you would click save. Then that's it. So your pick ticket has been invoiced. If I now go to invoice maintenance, I can see this guy here, and now it has an extra field on this. So it does have an order number 1, pick ticket number 1001, and it has an invoice number, which is 101. And then then the next process would be in Blue Cherry is you would process invoices, and that will, depending on what this customer is using. If it's an EDI customer, it would generate an EDI invoice, and if it's a paper invoice, it would generate a paper invoice. So let's see what will happen if I do this. And that's your invoice. So it kind of looks like a pick ticket, but it does have invoice here. It has an invoice number, has an invoice date, has a few more fields, has a ship to, bill to, as opposed to mark for, and then it has a remit to on the invoice. So remit to is Milberg factor, and on this, and the invoice is for $4,300 here. No freight charges, no miscellaneous charges, and that's what your paper invoice would look like. Again, you could set up a process that automatically will email this invoice to your customer, and that's basically it on the sales order entry, picking, and then invoicing. So this is a complete process. We just went from entering to invoicing. Our next step would be to post this invoice to AR. I'm not going to do that now, but that's what the next step would be. Again, most of these things you see me doing manually. All these processes, invoice process, they are normally done using Task Scheduler, where we basically do it on a regular basis. Let's say, you decide your schedule, you want to invoice once a day to 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Some people do it at midnight to make sure, because I know your warehouse is in California, so there's a 3-hour difference. So when it's 5 o'clock here, it's still, when it's still 2 o'clock over there, they could be shipping goods. So you could set up your invoice process to run at 11 p.m. and automatically send EDI invoices and paper invoices to customers. So that's what normally other people do. But I guess at this point we could wrap up. If you guys have any questions or comments, ask me. If not, we could finish the session.
Good to go. Any questions?
Yeah. No, none for me. Not now, anyway. I have to review this whole class.
Okay. All right, Maxim. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, David.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.